morning, everyone.
Morning.
It's a privilege that we can be here together. Good morning, everyone. I'm glad that we can be here together to study God's Word and grow in it. And how important is God's Word, and what does it say to us, as Brother Rennie mentioned at the beginning. To start out, I would like to read what Isaiah 55:11 says about God's Word. So shall my word be that goes forth from my mouth. It shall not return to me void, but it shall accomplish what I please, and it shall prosper in the thing for which I sent it. The purpose that God sent His Word is to encourage us, to call us to Him, and to worship Him. Now we want to look at Daniel's life, how he purposed in his heart not to defile himself. We're looking at when Daniel was about 17 to 18 years old. Jerusalem was taken captive by the Babylonians under King Nebuchadnezzar. The city was overwhelmed, and parts of the population taken captive, including the king, princes, nobles, among which was Daniel and his 3 friends. They were led captive to Babylon and taken into unknown circumstances in a godless culture, where the king could decide who would die or live. A very dangerous situation. But Daniel proposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with a portion of the king's delicacies, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he requested of the chief of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. Now comes a very important part. Now God had brought Daniel into the favor and the goodwill of the chief of the eunuchs. See, God is on the side of a person who looks to Him, who humbles himself, and who looks for help. When Daniel heard of having to eat food from the king's table and how the king dealt with people who disobeyed his orders, he was not dismayed or discouraged or said, "There's nothing I can do about this." Maybe he was afraid, but instead he devised a plan of counting on God's faithfulness and help. So he went to the chief eunuchs and came up with this plan. Please test your servant for 10 days, and then let them give us vegetables to eat and water to drink. He did not succumb to the temptation, but he says, I have a plan. I got to get out of this. Then the results. At the end, please test your servants for 10 days and give us vegetables to eat and water to drink, like I said. And then the results. At the end of 10 days, their features appeared better and fatter in flesh than all the young men who ate the portion of the king's delicacies. Forwarding about 3 years, 3 years of training that Nebuchadnezzar had for all those people who were to work in his house or in his palace. Then the king interviewed them, and among them all, none was found like Daniel, Hananiah, and Mishael, and Azariah. Therefore, they served before the king. The king examined them with all kinds of wisdom, and he found them 10 times better than all the magicians, astrologers who were in his realm. These are the results of purposing your heart not to defile yourself. God will help you. The king had a dream. The wise men were to tell the king the dream and its interpretation so that he knows that it was the right interpretation. The king answered to the Chaldeans. This is a discussion between the two of them. The king answered and said to the Chaldeans, "My decision is firm. If you do not make known the dream to me and its interpretation, you shall be cut in pieces and your house made into a pile of ashes." The wise men answering him, "There is not a man on earth who can tell the king's matter." And then they said, "And there is no other who can tell the king except the gods whose dwelling is not with flesh." That was the God of Daniel, but we'll see that later. For this reason the king was angry and furious, and he gave the command to destroy all the wise men of Babylon. So the decree went out, and they began killing the wise men. And they sought Daniel and his companions to kill them. A very serious situation, fearful. But Daniel and his 3 friends were in danger of losing their lives. Daniel again did not say, "We're doomed," but had a plan that counted on God's faithfulness. Daniel knew God's faithfulness because he prayed to God 3 times a day and had an intimate relationship